Do 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 do. Beep boo doo 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 doo. Now let's look for MGTOW. MGTOW. Wow. All your life you're streaming. Okay. MGTOW from today. Predatory system. MGTOW. A traversable philosophy. Coach Incel Whisper Trav. Don't be a slave to women. Infinium training. What do your duty really means? MGTOW. I think do your duty should be in quotes here, not this other thing. Anyways, let's take a look.
This is the MGTOW Infinium here with another Infinium training session.
All right, let's do it.
This Infinium training session is entitled, What Do Your Duty Really Means? Now, my MGTOW brothers, as time moves forward into this, I guess...
You and me, we're the same. We got a lot in common. We're brothers.
The reopening of things, the ending of quote-unquote the pandemic, you're hearing more and more women step to us with, we men must do our duty.
So already, us women, you know, no one has approached me and told me I have to do my duty. No individual woman has approached little old me, but I'll keep my eyes open. I'm just saying that we doesn't include me.
You're hearing the beta sense.
Sorry, I'm hearing. You're hearing.
Also saying that those men who are MGTOWs are not doing their duties. They are shirking. They are this and that, whatever.
Okay, I'll at least partially agree. Particularly as far as something that might be in the news, might be in the mainstream media. But again, I think the role that the mainstream media plays in its generalization, in its general application of some sort of narrative to us, the viewers, insofar as the way this video is being delivered, there really isn't a difference in that jump from the specific to the general, right? People that watch some clip from a daytime talk show where some female host is saying, you know, men are really failing to do their duty or whatever. It wouldn't surprise me if, you know, the MGTOW in what's his name, MGTOW Infinium here, or a lot of other people, if they saw that and the way they heard this person commenting, men aren't rising up to do their duty or whatever, if they felt like they were the ones being addressed, right? Instead of the first thing they notice being, who the fuck is this person talking to? Who is this general, you know, cloud-like group of men, right? But yeah, I think, I don't know, maybe I just have this instinct to, like, little beep goes off every time I hear one of those generalizations. It's like, maybe if you don't, you know, if you're the kind of person who doesn't notice it, then when someone says we, you just go, oh yeah, me, right? It's the same thing when, in fact, it's very different. You are not just an abstract fraction and representative of a group. Like, you are an individual, you know? We are individuals.
But my MGTOW brothers, I want to give you two examples.
I like examples.
What do your duty really means?
Okay, and I guess also engaging in, you know, defining what something really means. I would prefer something along the lines of what I think this means. I mean, if someone's tuning in to watch the MGTOW Infinium, it's, it's probably to hear what he has to say about these things. So is it necessary for him to make the claim that he's going to tell it like it is? If we're there just to hear his opinion anyway, like, I don't know, I feel like it would be fine if he just said, here's how I feel about it. Obviously saying this is the truth to some people, I guess, seems like a stronger statement. Like, I'm just trying to find the truth. And everyone out there is just talking about what they think it is. But then this guy, he says, he knows, because clearly he says this is the truth. But I don't know, is there really that many people in that category out there watching who just believe it when someone says this is the truth? I'll explain to you how it really is. I don't know.
Where these women are coming from, where these beta simps, cucks, or whatever, where they're coming from when they say these things to us, when they step to us and say these things to us.
Yeah, us and them. Us and
The
them,
first
baby.
example is this. A few days ago, I was getting my car inspected and had to go to the dealership. Really,
Car. Oh my god, I thought I was like, did he just casually mention he's getting his colon inspected? I'm like, this guy is. I was thinking, like, cool, man. I like how fucking laid back this guy is about talking about getting a colonoscopy. He's like, not shy to admit or anything. Good for him. You gotta get your fucking, you gotta get your stuff checked out on a regular basis, especially as you get older. But his car, okay, his car's getting inspected.
early because the inspections are free and they are first come, first serve. So I usually get out there very early in the morning to get my car inspected, which that's another story in itself. But moving on, as I got into the dealership, I was there sipping on a cup of coffee, just waiting for my car to be inspected.
Nice.
I observed a young white couple come into the dealership and sit on the opposite side of me and the bench seats that were on the opposite side of me.
Can't wait to hear about how their race factors into this.
The woman was pregnant, and it was
That's relevant.
obvious that her dude was doing his duty
What?
in terms
Just my reaction. What? Okay, let's find out what he means by doing his duty.
of procreating, in terms of being married and whatever, and bringing forth a child into this universe. But I observed this with the woman he was with, and mind you, again, she was pregnant, and again, apparently, the dude was doing his duty. But whenever he would leave her side to go and check on something, the woman would immediately start looking around and attempting to scan and read other men in the dealership. And at one point, when the dude came back to her side, they began having a disagreement over something or whatever. And the woman's in a bitch emerged, in which I have to stop here and define that there are two types of in a bitch emergences. One is the raging type. It is where the woman's in a bitch comes out and she is raging, screaming, and yelling and whatever, insulting the man, whatever. And there is the nice in a bitch emergence where the woman remains calm. And what she does in her calmness is
It's like, first of all, I love how I love the idea of the inner, like the inner bitch, and it emerges. I really like that. Like genuinely, I like that. from a poetic perspective. It's like having a genie or a genius, like people used to believe that they were possessed with a spirit. If you wrote a particularly beautiful poem or did a particularly spectacular backflip or something, people would go, "Oh yeah, like you have a genius." It's like, you didn't do that. It's like the spirit of fucking God or something working through you. That's how you managed to do that. And I like how in this case it's like it's an interesting poetic depiction. In a way, I don't like how it could be interpreted as like absolving the individual. Now, I imagine you could also say that, guys have their inner asshole, and there's two types of inner assholes, and one of them's the inner asshole that's a jerk, and the other one's a quiet one. And in either case, I'm not a huge fan of how it separates the behavior manifesting itself from the individual. Like it's if someone gets angry and then they punch me, I'm not going to let them make the claim that they didn't punch me. It was their inner asshole that punched me. It's like I expect them, the singular them, to take responsibility for their actions. So, but nonetheless, I do appreciate that kind of visualization, especially insofar as like, well, here's an example. When I was quitting smoking, I had a hard time quitting smoking multiple times, and by multiple, like, I think over the course of my entire smoking career, whatever you want to call it, I think I must have attempted to quit 100 times. Like, there were periods where for months I would quit every day for a couple hours, experience incredible anxiety, and then start back up again. Which is like, you might think, oh, quitting for a couple hours doesn't count, but the I would argue that the anguish that I at least felt like I was going through would warrant counting it. But anyway, at one point it really helped me. One of the sort of ways of interacting with the addiction that helped me was to visualize the addiction like some sort of entity or creature that grew stronger when I smoked and suffered when I went through withdrawal. And it helped me sort of map on the suffering and discomfort and anxiety, not onto myself, but onto this addiction. So I would kind of tell myself, I don't feel like shit. I don't feel like I'm having these unbearable withdrawal pangs. That's not my pain. That's the pain of this thing possessing me. That's the pain of the addiction. And it kind of helped me find a way to even take like this sadistic pleasure from torturing myself technically by telling myself I'm not feeling discomfort and pain. That's this parasite inside of me. And yeah, fuck you, like take the pain. Um I could yeah, so I do appreciate it in that sense. Also, Jung wrote about one of the most brilliant things that I read recently, or at least one of the things that struck me as the most brilliant that I've read recently. And in Ion, he talks about how the the interaction with one's own self, particularly with one's own subconscious, is only, if not at least best mediated by one's relationship to God or a higher power. That like you can't actually interact with your own subconscious. You can't be aware of it, otherwise it would be subconscious. But that a spiritual relationship with higher power is, in actuality, I think that was his argument anyway. I don't know if he was saying it also works as one, but anyway, that building and maintaining a relationship with a higher power, a spiritual deity or whatever, is in actuality you forming and maintaining a relationship with your own subconscious, and then working with it, trying to appease it, trying, engaging with it, uh, via your engagement with God is like that's either the best or the only way to actually interact with it. And so once again, it's got this idea of there being this, there's this thing inside of you and you're interacting with it. Even though I do suspect that maybe by, writing down his theory, uttering his idea, I wonder if it ruined it. I wonder if for that to work, if you need to be unaware of the connection between, like I wonder if someone like me, or maybe now someone like you who has heard this, is now incapable of taking advantage of this feature of let's say worshiping a deity, which, yeah, anyway. But yeah, inner bitch, two types of inner bitch. I mean, this kind of uh sounds ideological, I guess. It sounds like a system, you know. Like, let me explain to you. There's this amount of these things, this amount of these things. I don't mind a system being explained as as tools. I don't mind when things are explained as metaphors or as anchors to sort of tie concepts to. But I get I get kind of bent out of shape when someone says like, "This is how it is. There are this many numbers of this things." But let's continue.
Is push the buttons of the man she is with. And so this woman, again, she had an inner bitch emergence, but it was of the calm type. And it was so much so that it
Ah, yes, the calm bitch. Also, that made me think before I forgot to mention. It's like you ever listen to someone talk and uh, and you hear them repeating the same word but in different contexts, and then you remember how there's these like writing books that are, it's pretty much like a thesaurus, where you're like, what's another word for bitch? I don't want to use bitch twice. In the first sentence, I want to say that she was a bitch, but in the second sentence, I want to negatively describe this other mood that she then exhibited, which was like quiet, subdued, but yet still evoked. I knew I didn't like it as well, and it's like you got to look for a new word, and it's like, you know, seems like this person either isn't aware of that word or didn't put the time in, or just thought it was, maybe they just thought it was more effective to just use bitch twice. But yeah, I like the idea of a quiet bitch. The tempered bitch. What would be the word? I'm also not just. I didn't want to sound like, oh, I know, and he's not using it. Uh, Contemptuous? No. I mean, passive aggressive, but I don't feel like that's as powerful as something like bitch. Like that really pops. Um, yeah, you know what? Maybe we'll look into it some other time.
caused the dude that was with her to walk away in a huff, leaving her again free to scan other men in the dealership. And again, he came back to her eventually, they made up, so to speak. But the dude had no idea as to what happened to him or what was happening to him in general.
I feel like that's a leap. I mean, unless this guy knows this guy, like for like, okay. So the other thing too is like, how do you know that this woman was scanning? I mean, I feel like that's a reference to some of these things that I've been learning about what a lot of these hypotheses, you know, insist or at least strongly suggest that, women are always looking for the step up. They're always trying to, get ahead. It's like I feel like that's the implication. being made when he says, "Oh, she's like scanning all the guys." It's like, is it possible that any women out there can look at any men and not be scanning? You know what I mean? Like, is can that ever happen? Because if it can, obviously, I feel like this begs the question: how do you know if she was or wasn't actually scanning it, or do you just presume she was for whatever reason? But then also, if the answer is uh, no, there's no situation in which a woman wouldn't be scanning. Women are always scanning uh, everybody. It kind of flattens the definition of scanning people as being contrasted with any other type of looking. Because if it's like the when everyone's super, no one is, right? Like, if every time you look at any man you're scanning, then scanning just seems to be relegated back into the category of just looking. And in that sense, I feel like you can make a pretty safe argument that everybody is always scanning everything for its value. I think as like scanning is a feature of something that women exclusively do, particularly as it defines an aspect of their character that is like something to look down on. It's like, I don't know, it feels to me like that kind of act needs to be deliberate to be reprehensible, Not as just like, because then you could also argue, well, then if women do it automatically, are they even aware that they're doing it? And if they're not aware that they're doing it, like, and I'm sure that's the case in some versions of the theory. It just brings up some interesting questions. And then also, the guy comes back and the guy didn't know what happened. And all these things, like, again, like, how do you know that? Where is this projection coming from?
Let's go through a few things here, some takeaways here. Number one, although he thinks in his mind that he's in control of things, he is not in control of things. But rather, he is locked down because he is entrapped into her Venus flytrap. Number two,
How do you know what he's thinking? Oh my god. Venus flytrap. For some reason, that reminds me of like some Nirvana lyrics or something.
she
I've been drawn into your, what is it? Magnet pit trap.
is pregnant
Where's
with
my
what she
guitar?
considers to be a meal ticket for about 18 years.
Oh my god. Again, like, unless he knows these people, unless this guy knows this particular couple, then this is just, he looks at human beings and this is just how he thinks they all are. Like, I don't know, maybe it almost it almost scares me to imagine that some people would hear me say that and go, "Yeah, what's wrong with that?" It's like, I mean, the way he's saying it doesn't sound like he feels like he's making any sort of like insane turbo generalized statement. Oh, fuck. Maybe I could interview this guy. I mean, like, really, 321 subscribers. Okay, you think he'd talk to me? I know a lot of people base it on subscribers.
Number three, she does not respect him because not only did she have an inner bitch emergence, but she also used a distraction technique on him to get him flustered and walk away. And so again, when she counteracted his statements, he was making probably logical statements to her. She
He was probably making logical statements to her. Like, well, that's a very optimistic case for the young man here. Again, is just like Does anybody feel weird considering this idea of looking out into the world and seeing men and going, oh yeah, all these men, they're just going around making logical statements, you know? No illogical man exists. There are no men who in that situation maybe everything was their fault and they're idiots and assholes. Like it can't, oh, it's so fucking fascinating. Jesus Christ.
After them, he gets flustered and he walks away. And
How is flustered? How is getting flustered logical? Come on.
she knows already because she has him locked down. She knows his pattern of behavior. So if she does this when he's trying to say that, he will have a reaction such as getting flustered and walking away. And that's exactly what he did. And again, it gave her the opportunity again to look around and scan other men in the dealership. Number 4.
Also, I love the idea that she's this is a pregnant woman, right? Like I would I would have to just guess, you know, going way out there, big guess. A pregnant woman, you're a man, hypothetically you're talking here, you're a man, you're a desirable man. You've got you've got money, you've got a nice watch, you've got a car, you've got all these things apparently that externally will identify you as a better man than this woman's husband. And I think he's even presuming they're husband and wife. But anyway, you got all these external indicators, right? Nothing about the way you look in this hypothesis, this hypothetical scenario, nothing about the way you look indicates whether you're actually generous. Uh, Nothing about this indicates whether or not you fucking beat women. But nonetheless, just based on the aspects of your look, that might indicate that I guess you have money. Maybe willpower if you work out. That could be a deduction of a characteristic. Something. But based on this, if this woman identifies you as a higher value asset, let's say, because she's scanning, then this woman comes up to you and you're this guy, you got money, you got a nice suit or something, whatever. A pregnant woman comes up to you and what? What is a pregnant woman gonna seduce you with exactly? Like I find that part really interesting too. Like no doubt maybe this woman was like bitching at this guy. But my humble my humble opinion, in my hypothesis, I mean, to me it would seem I would if I had to guess on what the likely scenario was, or at least the part where she's a bitch, I would feel like it'd be more reasonable to guess that this woman is pregnant and that she is in more discomfort than she's ever been in her life, and that she feels ugly and fat and like a nuisance and like she's undesirable and she's just this fucking weight slowing down her husband and whoever else might be sharing their life with them. And that the motivation for her being, let's say, this inner bitch is a pretty common stress test, which I mean is not a really healthy thing to do, but nonetheless, it's a thing that people do very commonly, and it's not to get your husband away from you so that you could scan other guys. It's you essentially pressure people and stress people that you're worried will leave you because the only thing that you could think of that will affirm to you that they won't leave is essentially stressing them out. And it's a really counterintuitive impulse that people succumb to. But like to me, that's, or at least if I had to imagine, statistically, if someone just showed me this scene and asked me, what do you think her motivations are? What do you think is going through her head? I mean, I'd put my money on that. But largely because of the pregnant part. Like, I mean, I really just don't imagine a pregnant one being like, yeah, some of these guys are higher status. I'm going to pick the best one as a pregnant woman in my most vulnerable state. And like, there's something pretty unattractive about pregnant women. Like, first of all, they're dangerous in the sense that a lot of men are incredibly protective over their pregnant women. And like, if you interact with a pregnant woman and you do anything wrong, it's like there could be some guy popping around the corner any second to fucking drop you because you're fucking with his pregnant wife. Not to mention just society's attitude in general about pregnant women. But like, yeah, I don't know. I I digress.
She considers him to be weak and needy because she knew he would come back to her. He was not going to be the type of guy that, which in rare occasions I've seen this happen.
I wonder if this guy was capable of making as confident of a prediction when the guy walked away. I wonder if at that point he was like, that guy's gonna come back if he knew. Because right now he's explaining it in terms that are justified by the full playing out of these events, right? Saying saying I knew that would happen after it happens is not the same as claiming that you understand uh, what things are motivated by, and saying, "Oh yeah, I know how to explain this whole thing," looking backwards after it's happened already.
Where he left her sitting there and walked away completely. She knew he would get flustered, walk away, calm down, and come back to her. And that's what he did. Number five, again, when she was alone, and mind you, she is a pregnant woman, pregnant with this man's child. She attempted to scan and read other men who were in the dealership, which, in my opinion, that is despicable because she has no business doing so. Her mindset, her focus should be on her man and that baby that's in her belly. Number six, like other men who are in this situation,
I wonder if maybe she's a surrogate and she's carrying somebody else's baby and like that's her boyfriend, but like she's carrying her sister's baby as a surrogate, and her husband or her and her boyfriend have been getting into fights because they wanted to have a kid and she wasn't ready, but now that like there was $50,000 on the line, she decided to have a baby, but now they're worried because maybe there's complications. And like the doctor told her that maybe the complications will lead to her being infertile, and he's pissed off that like the one fucking baby she could have turned out, being somebody else's. And hey, who knows? That's just an idea I had, Doesn't make it true.
it is only his time with her. It is not a relationship which will last.
Nothing
So
lasts
he is looking
forever.
at anything from being on the hook for raising that kid or in a situation where he gets divorce raped. He is in a child support situation, which could mean if he fails to pay, fails to put up, he could go to jail. So in this example, this is six.
I don't know, man. I think the support, like, it's like he could go to jail. It's like, okay, he could go to if he kills someone, he could go to jail, right? But like we all know he shouldn't go to jail for killing someone because he shouldn't kill someone and we shouldn't expect him to kill someone, right? Like there's no reason for us to expect him to kill somebody. So we don't have to worry about him going to jail. As far as if they separate, which is another hypothesis, if they separate, there's no reason for us to expect that he shouldn't pay child support, right? Like if if it is his kid and he entered into that situation, willingly, then like as an adult, not as a man or as a woman or not doing your duty as a man or something, but like just like as an adult, he should be responsible for his decisions. And and then in that case, if they separate, and if the kid goes with her, then he's got child support. If kid maybe goes with him, she's got child support. Like he should, in that case, he should still do the right thing, just like not killing people is doing the right thing. So it's like he could go to prison. Well, he could go to prison if he doesn't do the right thing. And on a meta level, not doing the right thing is also contributed to the relationship in a way that ends with divorce. Like I think doing the right thing as a man or a woman, I partially agree with what he was saying, like, her duty to like raise this kid or whatever. It's like I think it's both of their duty to put the child first. When parents separate because, you know, we still love you, Timmy, we just don't really love each other that much anymore. It's like I I don't like the sound of that. I mean, I'm not going to tell other people what to do. I frankly don't really care. But I feel like if you, you know, if you make a fucking child, that it's like you prioritize the child. If you if you really fall out of love or something and you tried and you did your best to stay in love because you've got a reason to because you got this fucking child, but if you really fell out of love or whatever, then like it's still your responsibility to like put the kid first. Fucking pretend that you fucking love each other. That is a more reasonable solution to me than separating in terms of the psychological impact that it has on a child. You know, you're not just there to raise the kid like physiologically. You're not just there to be two adults who provide an income and care. It's like you're there to become the role models for this individual. You're there to help this individual map their expectations of how human beings relate to each other, especially when they're in an intimate relationship that is meant to accumulate in the creation of children, right? Um, yeah, I kind of feel like that's both of their responsibilities. So this hypothetical where it's like, you know, letting the relationship fail, like I don't know, I do think that having a kid is something that entraps, ideally, entraps both of the adults. Like a lot of these narratives, a lot of the MGTOW narratives is that it's like the men are trapped in their responsibility. They don't have fair representation or whatever. In a way, I don't feel like parents should expect fair representation or whatever you want to call it. A big part of me feels like if you bring you bring that new life into the world, it's like if anything, you should expect your desires and aims to be, you know, to be squashed by the desires and needs of this new human being that you've created. Like that's yeah, it blows my mind how people don't think of that thing they've created as this like incredible, terrifying fucking responsibility, this crazy fucking thing, Reading about somebody who like killed both of their kids, a single parent that killed both of their kids a week apart because it was interfering with their ability to enjoy the nightlife, Like, what the fuck? Obviously, they're an extreme example, but oh man, yeah. And then the other thing that he touched on about the responsibilities, about how this guy's got, he's more on the hook, more responsibilities. Um, Carrying a child for 9 months, in my opinion, sounds fucking. That just sounds insane. Then breastfeeding, having all of the like hardcore hormone and neurological changes that happen to mothers. The like it's been speculated for a long time and there's some decent evidence to support this, that one of the main reasons why women are generally more agreeable than men is because being agreeable, insofar as it's an act of subjugating oneself to somebody else's needs or opinions or desires or whatever, is absolutely necessary for raising a kid. Like when a kid is crying and you need to feed it, and then you haven't slept in 3 days and it's crying again, it needs another thing, and you got to keep going, and you can't decide that you just want to stop, that you don't want to care for it anymore because that's what you want to do. You're so agreeable that you will always put this thing ahead of you. And I mean, not everyone scores off the charts in agreeableness, but again, the theory is that the reason women are so much more agreeable is because they're expected to fulfill the role of child rearing, and particularly when the kid is young. It's like, all the women who were like, I don't feel like it today, as far as caring for their kids, like, they're the ones whose kids did survive, and that's why their genes aren't really that popular. And most of the genes that did survive are the ones of the women who were extremely self-subjugating to the needs and whims of the infant. But again, that subjugation and that agreeableness, to me, that sounds like a pretty big fucking taking on of responsibility. Like, I kind of think that fathers, particularly in the traditional, if you want to call it that, arrangement, where the mother is like the economic center, and she's home and she's taking care of the kids, and the guy is out there doing stuff. In the well, sorry. First, let me say, when she's at home taking care of the home, a lot of times in that example, people point to, I think, the very accurate, um, case that a housewife 100 years ago had nowhere near the amount of technologically advanced tools to that we do now to help her with her daily chores, and that by this point there's so much technological advancement that most of the house chores that would be things that you could never catch up. You were constantly trying to just keep the things clean. Now you could do it and have a lot of free time. Um, this is something that's often, I think, pointed to by people saying, like, see, women actually have it easier. Women should be happy to be housewives, because going out and working an 8 hour shift every day with hour and a half commute, that's way more work. But I think insofar as the as the expectations and responsibilities of a mother raising a kid or even multiple kids, I think at that point that could be, especially early on, that's like 24 hours a day. You don't get to do anything. You don't get to do anything you want. You only get to do what your children need and demand. And I think comparing that to the guy that, you know, has the responsibility of leaving the house and securing resources and goods and whatever, I think in a lot of ways, um, they can enjoy way more freedom and have way less responsibilities. But whatever, I'm generalizing. It's obviously not always the case.
Things that women expect of us men in terms of doing our duty.
Us and they.
Now, again, what happened in the dealership caused me to consider what women want when they want us to step up to the plate, so to speak. What they expect of us when they step to us and say, "Do our duty." And
I don't think that sentence makes sense. Do our duty. Do your duty. Do our. Oh, do our duty, I guess, would be like. I mean, the way he was describing it, it's like if it's the woman's duty to have the kids, then do our duty would be kind of like have our kids. But anyway, I think it's probably just a slip of the tongue.
this is another example of a dude, the second example of a dude who I'm aware of, who married a single mother who had kids by two prior dudes. The third
Fuck that is what I got to say about that. Yeah, I and I think that that's often interpreted as this like I don't know, again, more traditional thing, but yeah, that's certainly one of those things where and again, that's my personal view and I'm talking about what I would or would not do, but I I think that at the core of most of my relationship philosophy is like having a kid together and kind of like the kind of like just expecting that that person for you is out there whether they may be out there or not as still being the best outlook. I think in the same sense having a kid together as the sort of focal point of a relationship regardless of whether you're having a kid together now or you're talking about having in the future or whatever, that's still nonetheless something something needs to define the center around which you could rally and negotiate, um, and the kind of dynamic. I don't know what I could call it without sounding like kind of it's like the imbalance of the dynamic. Being in a relationship with someone where kids are involved, but they're his kids or her kids, where both people don't have the same responsibility, ownership, pride, whatever, recognition of the kids. That's just yeah, that's that's certainly something that I personally have like a fuck no thank you attitude towards. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I was when I was in more of like a casual dating, not like not just sex, but also not like seriously thinking about family or anything. At that point, I wonder even if I met someone that was like a mom and like didn't expect marriage, didn't expect me to step in as some father figure, but even would I just, in that case, would I get involved? And I kind of imagining that I would have said no, but who knows? Impossible to say.
Dude had two more kids by the woman he married, the single mother he married. Again, this is what doing your duty means for all three men to procreate and to have a resource to children for this woman. But let's go through another few takeaways from this woman who's been married to three men. Number one, all three men are on the hook for support for these children for about 18 years. As well, the third dude, should he wind up in divorce court being raped financially, he will be on the hook for four kids, depending on what happens with the proceedings. So he, as well as the two prior dudes, would have to pay full support or partial support, and all three dudes could wind up in jail because of not.
Yeah, the exact same thing applies to. I mean, if the custody is given to the guys, then the women are in the same position, right? And like I say that realizing that like statistically, it's the likelihood of it being one or the other isn't a 50-50 chance, but nonetheless, it's not like there's some it's like well, women are never expected to pay child support. It's just the men, right? Like it is something that applies to both people. We're just presuming that uh, we're presuming that they're going to split up, and then also if hold on, if she already has two prior kids, then isn't she already getting child support from the last guy? And then until the second guy until the second guy has kids with her, isn't he kind of ahead because he gets to have a relationship with this woman and he doesn't have to be responsible for the kids because they're already getting paid for by this other guy. It's like a part of his relationship with this woman is getting subsidized by another guy. I don't know. Does that make sense? I just thought of that.
payment. Number two, should the marriage last, and it's unlikely given the history, the third dude is on hook for support for 4 kids plus his wife. That's a lot of money, my brothers. Number three, is an automatic guarantee that the third dude will be destroyed by his wife, her mother, her grandmother, if he
What?
gets out of line, if he does something like, honey, I don't want you to do this. She doesn't like that. And big argument ensues. He winds up in jail. He winds up.
Oh, where are you getting this from? Who is this? Who is this everyman that you are describing that you know the story of? I'm just gonna skip forward because this part, I don't
A
know.
woman like my sister who has been riding me about doing my duty, or any woman in general comes to you, steps to you, and says, you as a MGTOW are not doing your duty,
You as a MGTOW. Who said that? Who said that?
and you are causing society to be destroyed. You are the problem.
Oh, see, this is psychologically interesting. This is an interesting inversion. Like so far, largely this guy's been talking about. He's been talking about how things are on these systemic levels, right? He's been making these generalizations himself outwardly. Now he's talking about this person that is attacking him for the things, for the systemic contributions that he's making. I really feel like this is like one of those things that people plan and plot for when they're in contact with this kind of with that kind of parasocial public narrative. You know, again, instead of recognizing that someone isn't actually addressing them, someone isn't actually addressing anyone, someone is just talking shit. But it's like someone's on TV saying men are to blame for this, you know? And if you're a man, you're like, they're talking about me. Like making that jump, taking their general statement and then specifically applying it to yourself. And then this generally, the reaction to this is to start engaging in some sort of mental rehearsal for how you will argue with this claim, how you will counter this. Because this person is just engaging you. And if you recognize them as just representatives of their group, then now, well, fuck, any woman on the street could accuse you of this thing at any point in time. You better be ready to defend yourself, you know? And again, it's one of these things where I never see a specific interaction ever happening. All I ever see is people talking about the general, but never have I seen, like, what was there was one about, I was watching a video, someone talked about fat shaming. It's like I've I've never I've never seen someone actually fat shame someone else, like get into this whole debate, you know? Like I just I'm not saying it doesn't happen, you know? Like and I'm sure that the people it happened to, it sucked, you know? But out of all the things that happen sporadically, And I think the one I heard about, it was like how some skinny attractive person was getting, they weren't getting fat shamed, they were getting, body shamed for, they were shamed for implicitly shaming obese people because their skinny body was whatever. Um, but yeah, it's like I don't see these. I don't see the actual interactions happening. Just the endless preparation for the general without without the actual. But this guy's talking about. It sounded like he was talking about a woman who was specifically saying this to him. So that's different. Do I believe it? Why not for now?
Problems. You are the
Let's rewind.
society to be doing your duty, and you are causing a woman like my sister who has been writing me about doing my duty,
Sister.
or any woman in general comes to you, steps to you, and says, "You, as a MGTOW, are not doing your duty, and you are causing society to be destroyed. You are the problems. You are the issues that are going on between men and women, and you need to come off of that path of freedom to do your duty." Consider these two examples. Consider
Yeah, who's
what
saying that?
doing your duty means. And to put it short and sweet, my brothers, when a woman or beta simp or whoever says you as a MGTOW man must do your duty, they are saying to you, you must do your duty as a slave. In both cases, these men are
Well, I mean, like, duty implies, like, in servitude to something, right? I don't know why that needed to be elaborated upon. I do think, though, that, like, being, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with being a slave. And, like, and out of all the things that you could be enslaved to, being enslaved to a virtue or an ideal, I think is desirable. And I think, in fact, not having anything that you're enslaved to, in the sense that, like, if nothing in the world is more important to you than just you right this second, you're gonna live a horrible fucking life. You're gonna be really fucking fat and out of shape and unhealthy and sad because you're not gonna ever do anything. I mean, even just submitting to our own willpower for something like, you know, doing the things we don't want to do in the immediate time, but that we know over the long term is a good thing. Even something like that, you have to enslave yourself to some other aspect, of what you believe in. It's like, I can't do what I want now because I want what I'm gonna want myself to have done a year from now. I'm the slave to my future self. And, like, that's where meaning comes from. That's like anything worth doing requires sacrifices, and generally the more you sacrifice, the more amazing whatever that one thing is that you sacrificed all those things for. And that's the thing you become enslaved to, if it's something you believe in. Not to mention, like the way this guy is defending MGTOW, like, he is a slave to MGTOW. He will, it sounds, I'm guessing anyway, it sounds like he would defend MGTOW no matter what, right? Those aren't, like, MGTOW ideas, like, those aren't his ideas. That's it's a set of ideas that he has internalized, that he has enslaved himself to. And I'm not just saying, like, the it's not like the bad aspect of that is the fact that he didn't come up with the ideas himself. Most women that are feminists didn't come up with those ideas on their own either. One way or another, people hear things, people see things, things make an impact on us. I would argue generally on a charismatic level, but things are impactful. we adopt the things that really sort of resonate with us, that make that impact, and then we enslave ourselves to them, and then we use them as the kind of aims or guides that dictate how we behave. So it's like, I don't know. I'd be curious to think. I'd be curious to know what this guy would think of the free life of not being subservient to any idea. You know, and I mean, think about this too. Even if you were to enslave yourself to, let's say, a woman, let's say this hypothetical whatever, one of these women with the kids or something. Let's say you would go, okay, look, I'm your slave now. I'll do whatever you say, right? You think you think she's just you think she's not enslaved to any ideas? You think she's not just acting out the beliefs that she's, like, married to? It's like you're not even enslaving yourself to her. You're just enslaving yourself to her ideals and beliefs. Like, it's, I don't know. I think there's a lot of complexity that's being ignored. Slavery isn't. I feel like the word slavery is just a big impact word, right? It's like, oh wow, slavery. Well, slavery's bad, right? And that's what your duty really means. I mean, I don't even think that. Yeah, I guess just to weigh in on the duty thing, because I'm gonna wrap this up because it's been another hour. Um, I think the I think one of the sad things that we often encounter in life is the realization that we don't have any real duties. I think that's one of the things that makes existence pretty sad. And I don't think that the way that the term has been brought up multiple times now, the way that the sentence to your duty has been brought up, um, in in some ways implies that this is a, you know axiomatic pre-existing duty, that it's objective in some sense. And yeah, I really don't think that it is. And I think that it's like finding a worthy duty. Duty. I just keep saying it. But finding a worthy one is is often one of these things that people take for granted for a big chunk of their lives. Then once they recognize the value and meaning of one, they start looking for it, and then they either keep trying to find it, until they die, often feeling like they never found anything of significant meaning, or they try for a bit and they fail to find it, and then they give up and then they become cynical fucking husks. Um, but yeah, like, duty is duty is a thing that I think you have to look for. Like, you need to seek it out, and I think it's a pretty worthy priority uh, in life to be like, okay, I need to find the thing that I believe, that philosophically or spiritually feels like this thing that I need to do. I don't think somebody else can really make you feel duty. I think it has to be something that comes, like, internally, like, because it's a sense of duty, right? It's not like I remember one of my exes used to work at a clothing store, a chain, and they had all these little posters printed up reminding the employees of all the things they have to do, all the chores they have to do every day, but they were called duties. And one of them was like, I think it was like 6 duties or something. And so the poster was like, "Did you do your 6 duties today?" And it was all these, poop jokes. Okay. And ending on that, well, let's just see what his last word is. Yeah, turns out I can only cover a 3-minute video in an hour.
As you go along your way in freedom on a road that takes you to freedom. This is the MGTOW. And this has been an Infinium training session. My MGTOW brothers.
Hmm. But who built the road, man? You got to go for real freedom. You got to go off road. Boom. Even though I don't entirely agree or entirely disagree, this has been an entertaining video, and this man deserves a like. You deserve a lot more subs, my brother. Excellent content. Hey, some optimism. You get a thumbs up too. Heyo. Interested in doing an interview about your ideas? Maybe doing a personality test as well. Cheers. Big smiley face. All right. Thanks for watching. See ya soon.